This review is on the book Spare. I'm the anger guy. I'm going to tell you like it is. After finishing the book Spare, I felt mentally drained. If Harry actually wrote this totally self-indulgent, descriptive, easy-to-read, no-hold-bars book, Harry should start writing fiction novels. With or without Harry, his notes, I think his secretary found a genuine, fine writer and wrote this book. Couple suggestions to Harry. Tell your father not to call you his darling boy anymore. Take your man card back. Gee whiz. Also tell your dad quit carrying that damn teddy bear around. Harry, please place that blue box that is on your nightstand and put it in a large sock drawer. Have some respect for Megan. Can't imagine making love and glance over at the blue box and instantly think of my mother. Gee whiz. No way. Fuck that shit. To me, Harry is a mama's boy. To this day, I bet if he is not totally exhausted, inebriated, or high, he still uses a nightlight in his bedroom, or at least leaves the bedroom door cracked open. He always blames his failures on an event or someone in his life. His mom's death, unresolved grief, psychological trauma, feeling alone all the time, and being the spare is a running theme with Harry in this book. I'm saying this sarcastically. Remember, sarcastically? Cheer up, Harry. The sole purpose for you, the spare, is to provide backup, distraction, diversion, and if necessary, a spare part. Kidney, blood, transfusion, a speck of bone marrow. This was all made explicitly clear to Harry when he heard after being bored, his father said, "Wonderful, now you're giving me a Heir. And now I got a spare. My work is done." Gee whiz. At a young age, Harry decided since he was a spare, he shouldn't have to learn anything about history while attending his elite schools. That became apparent when Harry was in his early 20s and was invited to one of William's friends' themed birthday party. History was not Harry's thing, so he dressed in a Nazi uniform included with a swastika band. He found a long black fake mustache trimmed it so to create a proper Hitler Mauser. Off to the party Harry went looking like Hitler. Years later, Harry would realize why he wore the Nazis' uniform. It was a result of various failures. Failure of thinking, failure of character, and failure of self-education. He didn't listen to the news, glance at the newspaper, and didn't read his history assignments in school. It's called the AI syndrome. Harry was arrogant and just plain ignorant. Nowadays, he calls it unconscious bias. I say bullshit. You learn through your environment as you grow. Learned that in Psych 101 in my college days. When Harry was old enough, he entered the school William attended. His brother told him he does not want him as a tag-along anymore because he has to prepare for his future heir duties. I think what Williams meant to say to Harry, grow the fuck up, because in the future he will have more responsibilities on his shoulders than Harry could ever imagine. Finally, received my book around 8 p.m. Friday night. Cut the Amazon box open and found the book titled Spare inside. With a smile on my face, I opened my new hardback book to the gutter. While slowly pushing my face to the gutter of the book, I noticed the old Bookman style font, which was too light. Okay, I thought maybe my pleasure of feeling the texture of the pages against my cheeks along with the bouquet of the pages will satisfy my need. With a deep inhale through my nose to smell the paper, the aroma wasn't what I expected. To justify something was wrong, I opened the front hardcover 3 pages in to realize my book could have came from the United Kingdom by Transworld Publishers. This review is about Harry and the British royal family. This is not about how I feel about the fine folks of Britain. While living in Philadelphia, working as a driver for Hertz at the airport for my second job, I would make extreme efforts to sit beside a woman driver who was from London. Immediately, I liked her as a person driver and just loved to listen to her accent. While waiting for our next delivery of our cars, a man would be reading his paperback book. After each page, he read it, then he would tear it out and throw it away. I stayed away from that guy. I am not a fan of the royal family. My negative opinion started to form years ago. The years of England trying to rule southern Africa left a bad taste in my mouth. Plus, Rorke's Drift is an outgrowth of imperialism, colonialism, nationalism, in short, theft. Great Britain was trespassing, invading a sovereign nation, trying to steal it. My negative opinion about the royal family was reinforced when I did a review on the movie the Nightingale. It's my own review, and I had a hard time finding my own review. Jeez. I always thought Queen Elizabeth always guarded the royal family's image and their secrets because she didn't want the public to realize the royals are just average people or high-bred crazies like Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathern, who once was said he was a sadist, sexually aroused by the sight of soldiers being horsewhipped. His wife, on the other hand, was shot 8 times on 8 separate occasions by 7 different subjects. Ooh, if the public got a whiff of any immoral or decent tactics used by the royal family, they is the word in how the royals define people who are not part of the royal family, would eventually lose respect for the crown, and the countries around the world would stop paying their taxes to the kingdom. Heir explains extensively how both him and his brother were taken care of in their younger years. It made me feel half ill recognizing the grossly indulgence explained so effortlessly without guilt. Both William and Harry had thoughts in their minds. There were a large number of people who spent a lot of time carrying out duties, including taking care of them, but those thoughts quickly vanished like a fart in the wind. Hell, they didn't even wash their own hair while they were at the boarding school. Washing the hair by the matron stopped at age 13, but they still had someone monitor their brushing their teeth and washing their faces before being tucked in at bed. Jeez, at night. My goodness. All their lives they lived in a surreal world, never caring for money, never owned a car, never have to worry about a house key, never had an Amazon box with a new book inside sitting on the porch, and never traveled underground on a subway. What disturbed me was Harry was at first boarding school. He and others would make fun of a matron who was physically challenged and had to walk backwards down the school steps. He justifies this tasteless act by saying he also made Pat, the matron, laugh too. A person can't help to acquire an attitude with life experiences as Harry did. He went to school, but during his time off, he would be flying around the world, resting in luxurious destinations. For me, prohibited to learn independence, rigorously following many rules and systematically infantized is not worth any amount of money or my freedom. After graduating from 12 years of school, Harry and his father decided what his next move would be. Harry decided he'd take a gap year, and his father suggested to work on a farm in Australia for 6 months. The remaining 6 months, Harry decided to do humanity work and go to Lesotho, Africa, where it's an epicenter of global AIDS, where tens of thousands have died. After the gap year, Harry would then join the Royal Military Academy. Harry lasted 9 weeks at the 40,000-acre farm in Australia because people were sneaking in the fields to take pictures of him, and Harry decided to leave the farm so the family he was living with would not be in danger. That was very considerate of Harry, right? Oh, yeah. He would also get out of that fucking hard manual labor shit. Starting the second half of his gap year, he went to Lesotho, Africa, the epicenter of HIV. Tens of thousands have already died, like I said before. And after arriving in Lesotho, Harry mixed gravel, poured cement, and repaired schools. But everything looked pretty bleak with the devastation from AIDS, so Harry decided to take an interview to tell the world about the crisis in Lesotho, Africa. This will be Harry's first ever solo session with a reporter. Of course, the reporter wanted to talk about his mother and Harry's exploits of women, drinking, and smoking weed. In my opinion, Harry's plan to take an interview worked perfectly for him. He left Lesotho, Africa to fly to Cape Town to party like a spring breaker. In this book, Harry does not shy away in telling all of his escapades. Returning back to the UK, Harry was required to take entrance exams for the Royal Military Academy of Sandhurst. If Harry believed he passed that exam with flying colors, then I guess he didn't think dear old dad could have contacted Lori Loughlin or Felicity Huffman. Harry, if you believe you passed your entrance exam with flying colors, then you believe what you were told when you were young. While Harry was hunting elk in his grandma's 20,000-acre farm, he was told he was doing good work by shooting those innocent elks. He was thinning the herd. I call that a Sarah Palin shot. Before going into the military, Harry investigated his mother's death. He asked his male secretary for a file from the police department about his mother's accident. One of the pictures he saw was showing Princess Diana slumped a little in the wrecked car with no physical injuries. Later on with the driver, Harry found Point de l'Alma, the name of the tunnel where his mother died. While in the car, he hardly noticed the slight bump at the entrance of the tunnel, which supposedly caused Princess Diana's death. From once, I agree with Harry's suspicions about how his mother really died. I always thought Princess Diana's death was another bullshit JFK unsolved mystery. The hardest time Harry had in the military was during basic. During his 2 tours, Harry acquired 2 different jobs that only the right person could have got them for him. Basically, someone Harry was acquainted knew the right person for him to attain these jobs. Anytime Harry wanted to quit, he would run to the commanding officer. Finally, while I was in the army, if I quit, I would be court-martialed and receive a dishonorable court-martial. No one wants that when you're going back into the real world looking for a job. Harry became a leader of men and had his orders canceled because too many insurgent leaders in Iraq threatened UK. All intel said they were gunning for the redhead if he entered Iraq. Every time Harry threatened to leave the army, he would ask to be closer to the action, and that's what happened. Next time they gave him a job everyone wanted. FAC, Forward Air Command. He was sent to Delhi to serve in a high-tech, small hut, among others, which was close to the action. Harry was responsible for the airspace above him, and he also could call airstrikes if he deems it necessary. During his time in the service and vacation from it, Harry had several girlfriends. Eventually, none of them worked out because the amount of attention from the paparazzi would basically follow his girlfriend and her family everywhere they went. Getting restless, Harry wanted to complete another tour at RAF, so Harry's male servant JLP introduced him to General Dana. The general suggested for Harry to train to be a helicopter pilot, which would take 2 years. Harry had to think about the offer because the training included hours and hours of studying. During this thinking period, which meant party time, he spent it, again, unconscious bias. While at a party, he mentioned he had a little packy friend. All hell broke loose. The controversy continued and got bigger, so Harry got shipped off to RAF Barkston Health to be checked in mentally and physically if he was fit to be a pilot. Of course he passed and started with his small, bright yellow Firefly, fixed-wing, single-prop plane, and the instructor eventually stalled the engine in midair and watched Harry shit his pants. They even do that type of training for air traffic controllers in America. Next, he was shipped to RAF Shawberry and discovered Apache helicopters were much more complex than the Firefly. Plus, he had to deal with hover monkeys. Harry's brother William was becoming a pilot also, and they both lived off post, living in luxury in a spacious and beautiful college. Also bitching about the paparazzi. What did William and Harry do? They agreed to do a joint interview. What the fuck? His next training came in a way of Middle Wall, where he would train to fly the Apache tactically. Instead of hover monkeys, he would have to deal with the head squirrels. Harry would complain because of 3 months of classroom work to a fellow mate on the phone, whoever would listen, to his secretary, and of course to his always 3 present bodyguards. He finally complained to the commander, but he would not let Harry quit, because little does Harry realize the military has already spent millions of dollars for his training. Harry finally realized that he has been coddled all his life, because when he sat in the front or back seat of the Apache helicopter, no one was sitting next to him if he fucked up. During one of his vacations with his new acquainted friends from Cape Town, they told him he has been in a take friendship with them, a typical dynamic for Brits in Africa. Now it's time for Harry to pay up. Since you do have influence around the world, it's time for Harry to shine a light on poverty, murders, and HIV epicenter in southern Africa. Soon it was Harry's watershed age, which meant he realized he has come to a fork in the road of his life. When Harry received his wings, so did his latest girlfriend, Shells, supposedly. Before Harry was deployed, he was given a pass to meet his grandmother in Caribbean to celebrate 60 years of the throne. What the After reaching his final station, many missions were canceled because of slow OKs to fire on the enemy. That really frustrated Harry. Almost missing William and Kate's wedding going to the South Pole with wounded soldiers, Harry had almost 2 great losses. He realized William is getting married and will start a family. With the future burden of the United Kingdom increased more on his shoulders as years go by, there will be no time for him. He will lose William as a brother. While getting ready for William's wedding, Harry realized after his North Pole expedition, all his extremities were healed from the frostbite, except Harry's South Pole. There are 12 pages in the book dedicated to this delicate subject. After leaving the service for good, Harry thought of his next challenge in life, maybe international warrior games for wounded soldiers. It actually didn't work out that way. Day by day, he felt more sluggish, hopelessness, and lost. At age 29, he was living with his dad, and his mental state consisted of debilitating and terrifying panic attacks. His fear of being around people increased, and PTS was brought to his attention. When Kate and William had their first child, named George, Harry's thoughts went to where he was on the pecking order from the throne. If he ever forgot where he was, the tabloids would always remind him. Going half crazy, Harry had to think what was his next adventure. He decided to go to the South Pole with different wounded veterans. This time, a small pocket sewed together from the softest fleece was especially made for Harry's South Pole. With the pocket placed strategically, he made the trek to the South Pole safely. Harry moved close to William and Kate, hoping they would visit him, or he could pop in at any time and say hi and play freely on the carpet with his new nephew. That never happened. During one of Harry's appearances in America in the South, he visited Elvis Presley's mansion. Didn't grasp how spoiled Harry really was until he visited Graceland. He said, "The king? Elvis Presley? Oh, the king. Right." Harry was surprised when people said his house was a castle, mansion, or even a palace. Harry said it reminded him of a Badger set, dark and claustrophobic. Harry thought while standing in a tiny room with loud furniture and shag carpet, the king lived there. Really? He also thought the interior designer must have been on acid. Harry. Elvis' house was actually built in 1939. Elvis moved in Graceland in 1957. At that time, it was a mansion or a palace compared to most homes in the United States. Harry, in his late 20s, living with Sir Keith Mills, opened the Invictus Game ceremonies with William. Afterwards, Harry got credit for putting on the Wounded Veterans Game, but in reality, Sir Keith Mills, who put the 2012 Olympic Games in London, did all the extensive work for 10 months to get the Invictus Game started. Shortly after the Invictus Game, Harry informed the palace he was leaving the army. Just like that. What the fuck? Who does that? Harry dove into public appearances, alcohol, mushrooms, psychedelics, and ingesting a socially ceremony and shamanic spiritual medicine, which is psychoactive and anything again brewed drink. He admits psychedelics did some good for him. Later, Harry tried to join the military, but they told him he'd cost too much money for the service because the effort to protect him while he was in service was just too much. Again, he went back to Cape Town to see Tej and Mike for 4 months, embarked on a fact-finding trip to educate himself in the Ivory War in the epicenter of the world for HIV. Harry actually seen Meghan Markle's picture on someone else's phone. The funniest part I thought in the book was when Meghan was in the small tent with Harry in a beautiful part of Africa. Meghan woke up by a crunching noise outside and got Harry up because she was scared. Harry told Meghan need not to worry because it sounds like a lone elephant eating some tall stalks. Later on that night, Meghan was woken up by a roar of a lion. She immediately put her head on Harry's chest. Harry told her, "Don't worry, I'll keep you safe." Yeah, with 3 armed guards outside for Harry, 2 dear friends, and probably 10 people who set up the tents, carried their food, supplies, and any other work that needed to be done was outside guarding the lovebirds in the small tent. Many times Harry would mix business with a lot of pleasure. This time, after romping in the African plains, Harry had to fly to the capital, Gabon, to meet the president of Botswana to discuss conservation. After jumping his sack and thinking he is in love, yet with another woman, Harry leaves Meghan off at his friend's house so he can embark on his 3 lads gone wild trip amidst the alligators and hippos. Can't imagine money that went up in smoke and into the weeds. Planning to meet Meghan safely in London at Soho House, he made his mind up since she has always asked him questions. She hasn't Googled him yet. How naive is Harry? Come on! The Fabulous 4, Harry, Meghan, William, and Kate, got together to meet Harry's new girlfriend. Harry said to all, "Hope there will be many visits like this." William responded by saying, "It might not happen, Harold, and you got to be good with that." William continued by saying, "Slow down. She's an American actress after all." My heart was pumping when Harry and Fergie was trying to rifle the rules to Meghan and how to greet and talk to Harry's grandmother for the first time. After reading that brief description, it wasn't exciting as thought it would be. Meghan must have got a hint what royals have to do or say or put up with while being a part of the family. Meeting Harry's dad and Camilla went okay. His dad enjoyed Meghan's company. Camilla was a little cold, and Harry was disappointed that Camilla turned his old bedroom into his dressing room. November 2016 was a month that all hell broke loose. The paparazzi found out Harry had a serious girlfriend named Meghan, and she already met the Queen, Paul, and Camilla. There were derogatory marks every minute against Meghan on the news or in the tabloids. The paparazzi was swarming around like flies. If one finds a possible picture of a royal, there would be a pack of them in minutes. Harry didn't realize how bad it was until he had to go to an event and told Megan, just dress incognito and buy some produce at the market. You'll be okay. It's just down the street. The photographers saw her and they practically took her over to get a picture of her. Harry and Megan had a horrendous argument afterward. Megan told him he needs to go see a therapist. First confession, Harry told the therapist was, if he talked about his mom, he was afraid of losing her. At the start of the Invictus Games, William and Harry gave an introduction speech. Best part of the Invictus Games for Harry was when the London wheelchair rugby team beat the Americans. Any spiritual good moment that happens to Harry, he thinks his mom sending a message, except for the hummingbird that entered his house. The calm between the storm, beginning at chapter 19, is where most people think they know what happened inside the royal house. Not so, but that is the point where the book gets interesting. Personally, I was shocked after reading this book, feeling I would be proven right and how I felt it would be a win for me because the chaos and the backstabbing that went on in the royal family. My thoughts about the royal family was right and was proven with this book. Being proven right, I thought it would make me feel happy inside. I felt totally opposite. I was not happy at all. It was a hell of a lot worse. All through the book and after writing my notes, I would tell my better half I couldn't believe what just happened. There was no emotion, no shock or surprise in her face. My next thoughts was, why in the hell do people around the world pay taxes to this totally dysfunctional family? To me, that's crazy. I bet I'm among the few who has read the book Spare entirely from cover to cover, and that's counting Harry. Why did I read this book? To justify my ill opinions toward the royal family. The overindulgence and the privilege for the royals were beyond my wildest imaginations. Harry's charity sent to Bell to help people with HIV in Lesotho, Africa. Centibel means forget-me-not in memory of Harry's mother because she also made visits to Lesotho to draw attention to the HIV crisis in Africa. Also, it was Princess Diana's favorite flower, which was a forget-me-not. Thousands of phones, millions of pictures, and miles of video, but no proof Harry just hovering in a helicopter himself. Did you know in Westminster Abbey, where Queen Elizabeth was buried, Kate and William were married, there are 3,000 bodies buried underneath, under the pews, and in the walls. After reading and writing my third draft for this review, I will have to do a purge. That's flushing out all the negative thoughts by the use of no happy pills, no happy smoke, and no agu peddlers. It will be with one of my friends, JD or Johnny Walker, while playing an old game, John Madden 25. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you viewing and value your comments. Thank you. Thank you.